Are you checking it out?
Mm-hmm. Oh, it looks like we're good. Yeah, I think we're good.
Cool.
All right, excellent. On this week's episode of the Counterculture Podcast, America's fat, and we're dying.
Basically.
That's it. Welcome back to another episode of the Counterculture Podcast. I'm your host, Christian, along with my great friend and co-host, Taylor. What's up, man? You doing good?
What is up?
You doing good?
I'm doing great.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been pretty damn cold.
Well,
here.
half of my family I feel like is sick right now. So there's that. But we can't catch a break. I mean, I know your family's kind of doing this roller coaster too, but Texas, as always, like, you can't predict our climate. It's like 40-degree temperature swings daily. I mean, we got back from California not that long ago, and it was like 80, 85 degrees here, and like we were getting ready to, like, we were back in like shorts and t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
And then like overnight, it's back in the 30s. So that's not good for your health.
No, it's not. It's actually terrible, especially when your wife has some serious allergies.
Oh, I've been sneezing like crazy.
It's just right. We have that, and then Lila's was puking like 2 days before. Like, she finally, I think she's over, but she was like puking like yesterday and a little bit of the day before, and it's like,
yeah, that went around. That was on my my wife's family's side.
Really?
All of them were doing it.
Really?
Like a little stomach bug or something. My kids complained about like an upset stomach for like 2 days, so we thought that was it. We were waiting for it, but none of them actually hurled. So maybe they were just keeping it down. But the smaller kids, I know, Taylor's side and all that. Yep, all of them.
Dang. Yeah. So the other two were fine. So I guess it was just Lila had to to take the brunt of that one. But yeah, besides that, I mean, things been good, man. You know, it's good. I mean, with how crazy everything is right now, right? Again, and we've talked about it. It's very easy to get like swept up into the like the
hustle
weird,
and bustle.
well, the hustle and bustle of your life, but then also like the crazy, especially when you get into what we follow culture and politics a lot. So it's very easy to get like sucked into all that stuff really quickly, and it's just been, the last couple of weeks have been really great. I mean last week we had a wonderful episode. I'm just gonna talk about it real quick. We had Carla back on our show. If you didn't get a chance to watch it,
Yeah, it was fun.
Go back. Every time we have a conversation with her, it's just amazing.
It's never dull.
No.
Like, it's a good time.
It's
But
a good time,
speaking
and
of
she's
time,
so smart.
we never like need time to fill. It's just nonstop, good quality conversation. If anything, we typically go overtime. So
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and not only do we go over the time that we like initially lay out, but then also it's like we could probably add another hour onto the conversation.
we almost have to
easily.
like cut it off like mid like meat and potatoes of the conversation, just
I
because
know.
it's already been
Yeah, we're like, holy cow, we've been talking for almost an hour and a half. But it's like we all have families and we gotta like move on with our life. But it's so great. So if you haven't checked it out, please go check it out. It was really awesome. And we may have another guest next week. Maybe. I'm making no promises because I'm the one that has to try to figure it out. So, so no promises, but I think we probably will. But anyway, before we get too much into it, make sure you go like, subscribe, hit the notification bell down below. All right, share the show with your friends. If you want to find us on social media, you can find us at the Counterculture Cast on Instagram, where occasionally, sometimes we post stuff. Mostly on our story, but we post stuff. But you can follow us there. You can also find us on Twitter, Facebook, all those other places. But we're most active on Instagram. That's where you can find us. And then, of course, also Apple and Spotify. If you prefer the audio version, you prefer listening, on your way to work or whatever, you can find us on Apple, Spotify. Leave a 5-star
I've been pretty
review.
bad at that.
Huh?
I've been pretty bad at that. We've become such like YouTubers that I need to go back and
Yeah, but we're even bad at that. So are we really good at anything? What's the old saying? You're a jack of all trades and master of none.
Yeah, I should get that tattooed.
So we're a jack of two trades and master of neither.
We're two jackholes.
Yeah, that's a good way to describe it. So, but you can find us on there. So you can do the audio version if that's what you prefer. If to have us in your car or in your ear while you're running or working out. If you do that, I hope you do because you should. All right, that was a really hard segue into what we're talking about.
Pretty decent transition.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. So, I mean, what we're going to talk about is, because this is actually something I was hoping to talk about with Carla a little bit, but, we got into the conversation we did, and it was awesome. Mm-hmm. But she had talked about one time on her Instagram about being, had going just, I think, strict carnivore diet for like 2 or 3 years now, and all the health benefits that she's seen from that. And so I wanted to talk about that, especially because she's someone who's a little bit older, right? So from that perspective as well, because a lot of times you see it's like, millennials are doing these trends and all that kind of stuff. But for someone who's a little bit older, right, what sort of benefits they've received from that. But now, granted, the carnivore diet was sort of popularized. I say sort of popularized, but it became into the zeitgeist a lot through Jordan Peterson and his daughter because of the health benefits that they saw from that. Now they go way more intense. Like it's like Jordan Peterson eats nothing but steak, water, and salt. Right?
Yeah.
So it's like in like
and it's only like red meat. I mean, it's only
like beef or lamb. I think there's one other animal he eats, but it's those are the two main ones that he does.
Yeah, and I've talked about carnivore on the show a few times, but like with anything, there's pros and cons. But I don't know. I think if you need like a good hard reset, I think that's something that could be worth looking at, because he's definitely miserable on it.
Yeah,
it's not something that's enjoyable.
Yeah, well, he's talked about how he's like, I hate it, but I feel better, so I just do it because it makes you feel better.
Better just from his health complications, I would say. I would say if you're already a pretty good healthy person, I think there are some aspects you can gain from going carnivore, but I don't think it's necessary to do strictly carnivore. I think that's, we can obviously tie it in more as we go on, but I think everything in moderation is going to be kind of the theme of today.
Yeah, well, I think, I think going towards some formation of, I would say somewhere from like a keto, carnivore to a paleo diet, somewhere in there.
Because I try to be more paleo carnivore.
Yeah.
So I like my eggs. I do cheeses. I'm not like dairy. If it's in there, I don't mind. So typically more animal products. And then I like to have like whole foods or like raw ingredients, like almonds, things like that. Mm-hmm. Rice, potatoes, pretty much just basic. Mm-hmm. I think the goal is to get away from anything processed. Fewer ingredients, less preparation. I think that is more where the health benefits are going to come. But yeah, I think carnivore just makes it very, very easy to do that.
Yeah, it does. Especially if you're talking about like a sort of elimination diet, which I know it's kind of can be used in that way. Mm-hmm. It certainly, in my opinion, would be the best elimination diet because it's
a lot
animal
of
products. And
a lot of people want to do like a reset, like a cleanse, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think carnivore is a really easy way to do that. You're talking just like broths. Don't even do like regular chicken or beef. Do like beef bone broth.
Because if you're going to do it right. Bone broth is very good for you.
Yeah, it's good for your hair, skin, nails. You got a lot of good minerals. We actually start cooking our rice with like beef bone broth instead of water. Like things like that add a lot of flavor. It's brings that umami flavor that people kind of crave and want, that hardiness, without savory, being like, you got to go kind of watch your sodium with these kind of things. But again, everything's in moderation. So if you can like increase your water intake and you're there, the water will help flush out any excess sodium. But yeah, with anything, Like if you're going to start taking steroids, at the gym or anything, consult a doctor or physician. Don't just take our word for it. And, they can do blood work. You don't think Jordan Peterson gets all that stuff checked to make sure his diet, as extreme as it is, isn't having any other complications. Sure. He's, his chronic illness is maybe waning or having no side effects. But he could have other issues going on, because I hear like the carnivore can have some negative effects too. So
yeah, I think it's just at the end of the day, I think number one, like I said, talk to kind of like you said, like talk to professionals.
Don't trust
right?
us.
We're not going to pretend to know everything, but I think any kind of step towards a more natural way of eating is going to be better for you, no matter what. Again, and because what's really got me thinking about this was not only, again, I wanted to talk to Carla about it, but I've mentioned this a couple of times for my wife, myself. This last year, we went through a huge health change, and so when you kind of, just like in any area, when you gain like a level of awareness or consciousness about it, right? You see everything differently, and for me, one of the big things is how I see food, right? And trying to...
You say seafood? Like crabs, fish?
I see what you did there. That's such a dad joke.
I am a dad.
Well, you are a dad. That's true. It's... Okay, you totally threw off my train of thought.
Boom.
That train went off the tracks.
Derailed. Everybody died.
What am I saying? Oh, yeah. Over this last year, right, when you really take a step back, you kind of realize how many things there's two things that you can actually enjoy a lot of things with that, that you would think like, oh, like that's probably not going to be very healthy for me. It's going to be okay, right? Or it is good for you in a certain sense. But then you realize like, man, a lot of the foods we eat are like really, really bad for us. Like one of the biggest offenders is soy, right? Which soy is in like
everything,
and soy is really bad, especially for young boys. It's very, very bad for you.
Yeah, because of the estrogen and how it boosts and can throw off your hormones that way. But the problem is it's become such a cheap product.
Correct.
That they fill it in everything.
Correct.
It's become this filler, the shortcut for packaging companies, food companies, whatever you want to call those. But kind of like along y'all's health journey, which I know y'all are doing great. I mean, the weight loss on both of y'all is like amazing. On our end, we've made a similar transition this past year and a half, because my wife has a health complication. She's got an autoimmune disease. I think we brought it up on the show a few times, but in order to keep
what's it called? It's like called Kawasaki or
Hashimoto's
Hiroshima.
Yeah. So she actually has Hashimoto's, which is an autoimmune disease. It affects like the thyroid and everything. I don't know if it's hypo or hyperthyroidism. I always get it wrong, so don't quote me. It's one of those two, so you can narrow it down from there. But the doctors say, they can regulate her levels, obviously with medicine, but it's a constant juggling act. But the main way you get the results, kind of like with Jordan Peterson you were talking to, is just through diet. They said to cut out all gluten, which the moment my wife made that hard switch, I mean, her energy bounced back. She wasn't groggy during the day. That brain fog all kind of went away.
Yeah.
That weight that she couldn't seem to lose no matter what she wanted, which is almost more just bloating and water weight, it all started to drop off. And she thought for like a couple of years that it was just the last of the baby weight she couldn't get rid of. Secretly, there was an undiagnosed issue. And then on top of that, they recommended that she also cut out all soy and dairy. So like overnight, we went from a family of family of four, 2 little kids, just making whatever it was convenient, to suddenly like we felt very limited. And it's not easy because I know y'all are going through this too, whether you're doing keto or whatever. Trying to hardwire your brain and like jumpstart it to think differently on how you look at food and how you prepare it. It's a challenge for sure. But once you make that step, honestly, all that other junk and those cravings, I don't crave that anymore. Like I crave like, it sounds silly, but simpler things. Like I just keep like like jerky and different things. Like,
Yeah.
and I'll go and I'll snack on a piece of jerky or like something super simple.
Yeah.
I'll go back and heat up some leftovers. I'm not going and grabbing a bag of Cheetos, although I still have kids, so there are some of those things in there that I'm like, oh, I guess I'll grab a little
Yeah.
fun size bag of
Yeah.
Cheetos.
And it's funny you say that too, because one thing that I know for us, like, I used to be notorious for sneaking like the kids snacks we had. Now, granted, we've made a lot of shifts of the stuff that we get for the kids. Not 100%, just because sometimes it can be a little difficult. But since the beginning, our kids have been very good about typically when they snack, it's like if we have carrots, like Eli will like on his own like want to get carrots,
Yes.
right, or blueberries or strawberries, right. A lot of it has to do with how you raise them, and your expectations.
Well, that's a good point,
and
because you don't want to shelter them, because then they get out and then it's like overwhelming. It's like the whole, priest daughter thing, but on the other side.
You mean the pastor's daughter?
Priest can't have kids, whatever.
They shouldn't. Anyway.
But yeah, like if you try to shelter them too much, I feel like when they go to a friend's house, they're going to binge.
Yes.
And their body may. So I'm not telling my kids they can't have that, but to your point, my kids reach for carrots too, grapes, strawberries. They like, like almonds and stuff that are in there. So the fact, I think it's just a healthy balance.
Yeah. And what's funny is the cravings was one of the biggest things that went away when we started having kind of a healthier, partially because when you eat these things that actually have a higher nutrition density or whatever it is, right? You feel more satisfied, right? So you don't feel the urge to have to be snacking all the time on stuff.
It's whole foods versus like empty carbs.
Right. Exactly. And so a lot of this has to do with, again, not only that, but also, Christina had sent me a graph looking at two things, right? First was, her graph was the obesity rates in 1987, hold on, let me see. So it was 1987, and then the other two were, let's see, it was 2003 and then 2021. And so by 2021, the obesity rates have like tripled, right, since 1987.
You think we'd be like already invested on it, because this isn't new. I remember growing up through school. The joke was that Americans are the fat ones,
Oh, yeah.
So they started making changes, even when I was still in school, about trying to go like healthier options at lunch. They were limiting, like you couldn't get chips in the lunch line anymore. You had to go to a vending machine and pay cash. You couldn't use your student card that your parents could put money on, because they were trying to limit you. So like, if you want that bad stuff, you're going to have to, go out of the way to get it.
Yeah,
and that's where the sodas and everything were. They only had like milk and water available in the lunch line. So, I mean, they were making efforts, but clearly we're looking in the wrong spot.
Right. Well, I think it's just because it's the food in general, right? It's not just those things. It's the stuff that we grab at the grocery store, right? It's the soda, it's the cereals, it's the can, it's the processed food, all of it, right? All of it is slow. I mean, it's slowly killing you, right? And there's no other way to put it, right? I mean, it's slowly making you sicker and sicker and sicker, right? Because when you look at people that are older now, right? A lot of them look, even in their 50s and 60s, just look terrible.
Much older than they should.
Right, they look much older than they should, right? And you look at people that kind of took care of themselves, right? Like I'll get like even my parents, right, who are older, right? No one ever thinks that they are the age that they are, right? They always assume they're younger because they typically took good care of themselves over the years, right? And what's unfortunate is there's no serious effort in trying to really combat this issue, right? And the reason why that I would say that as well, and this is another story of why I want to talk about this, is because there is this woman named Dr. Fatima Cody Stanford, okay, that she has been added to a member of the Biden administration's panel set to determine new dietary guidelines for Americans, okay, and she has been receiving backlash over her comments about obesity, okay. She is an obesity medicine physician at Mass General Health in Boston and was appointed to the 2025 Dietary Guideline Advisory Committee, okay, And the appointment received backlash because she was doing a 60-minute interview where she said obesity is a genetic condition and is not caused by lifestyle, and that exercise and diet, right, can't fix that. Which is it's a wild claim because it's just wrong. But also, this person has a doctor in front, a doctor in front of their name.
Yeah, that's
right.
the crazy part.
This is again one of the experts, right? The experts, right?
The problem is you can't trust experts anymore
No.
because you don't know why they're saying what they're saying and what they're getting paid to say. Because clearly, I mean, I wouldn't say we're dumb. We're pretty smart. We have a decent education,
Yeah.
but it takes very little common sense to realize what affects what. And to have such a blatant statement like that,
Yeah.
saying obesity is purely genetic, it's the same angle that they're trying to take mental health, saying, oh, you can't, fix depression by, changing your outlook, getting more rest, getting outside and exercising more. Here's some pills. That's the only thing. We can only fix the symptoms. We can't, get to the root of it.
Right, absolutely. And, what's important about a lot of those, what's funny about that, when you look at, kind of back to the stuff in the grocery stores, right? When you look at the different food dyes and everything like that.
Yeah, that's what I was talking about with you.
Right. And the negative effects of it, right? Instead of the doctor saying, well, what are you giving your kids? All that kind of stuff. We're just saying, like, to your point, the symptom, like, oh, well, just give them this pill, right? So now this kid is doing drinking, the fruit punch, Gatorade, which made my heart hurt. It's so sad because that's my favorite flavor of Gatorade, and it has, I think, what is it, Red 40, I think, in it?
Yeah.
Which is, like, super not good for you.
The fact that it's allowed here with our FDA and other countries, like, straight up have a ban on it.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Right. And so it's like, Europe's not right about a lot of things. Actually, like, they're wrong about most things a lot of the time nowadays. But when it comes to the food thing specifically, I think that it would behoove us as a country to take lessons from them, right? Because if you look at the average European, they're thin. If you look at the size of clothing that they do, right? The small, medium, and large, right? Like they have. It's pretty astonishing when you compare it to the same, like, small, medium, large in the United States. It's totally different.
Yeah. I mean, I was going to be funny and say, like, we come from better stock. We're taller, But no, I mean, to your point, we're typically just bigger people.
Yeah.
And not necessarily in the good way that I was going to joke about. All
Yeah.
these corn-fed, boys out in the Midwest.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, no, we're just fat. We're just fat. And, and again, for me, in a lot of ways, as a spiritual person, right, I look at things on that level as well.
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm not saying there's some evil satanic, cabal or whatever, necessarily, right? But I do think there are people that prefer the average person.
It's the Illuminati.
It might be. The average person to be fat, lazy, docile, right? Because they're more easily controllable, right? And they're willing to just give in to indulgence, right? Whether it's through food, through sex, or other, drugs or any other entity, right? They prefer you in that state versus clear-minded, right? Alert, healthy, right? All those kind of things. And it's just, and it's really noticeable, again, when you look at the two things, like the food pyramid from 1991, that was when it was first introduced, right? The focus on the
one.
grains.
Everybody remembers it at school, and they have the different categories.
Right, like I'm looking at it now, right? So, like, the biggest thing that they focus on is bread, cereal, rice, pasta, right? That's the most important thing, which is just like, it's like, oh my God, that's terrifying. And then you have, like...
Well, it's at the bottom because it's the biggest, because that's what's supposed to be the bulk of your diet.
Right. And then you have vegetables and fruits after that. And then after that, milk, yogurt, dairy, and meats. And what's funny about that
At
is...
the very top was what? Like sugars, things like that?
Yeah, like fats, oils, and sweets, right? Mm-hmm. Which is like, okay, fine, right? But what's funny is if it's natural fats like beef tallow, things like that, it's actually very good for you.
Even
right?
lard, like bacon lard.
Yeah, lard.
It's good for your joints. Like,
Yes.
I mean, look how many people are having like problems with like, I don't want to say osteoporosis, but osteoporosis. There's another S in there. So, but yeah, between arthritis and people who need knee replacements and everything else, it's just, I mean, I was showing you that TikTok with that Appalachian woman who's 87. She was all talking about how she's been eating Jell-O for years because the gelatin is supposed to help her joints, and she's 87. She's like, yeah, I can play football right now.
Limber as a 15-year-old kid, and it's interesting, when you look at that, right? And again, we've talked about this too. When you look at pictures from the 1950s and 60s of people at the beach, everyone's thin, right? Everyone's thin. Everyone looks happy and healthy, right? And you look now, it's terrifying.
Yeah,
and awful.
I mean, okay, you could say part of it is because we're not as active anymore. We're not as outdoors anymore. Kids are being shut in a lot of, more and more with this day and age, like gamers, streamers, just being, slaves to their electronic devices. But there's something to be said when you look back. And I've been saying this for years. I'm like, am I just missing something? Was it camera quality or what? But like 18-year-olds going to war, like back in like World War I, World War II, like these people look like these men. They were men. They looked like men.
Right, they have full-blown mustaches.
Yeah, they were jacked.
Like, oh my
you ever seen that one famous one where it's like these are 16-year-olds and they're like all standing on the monkey bars, or some standing on top. They're wearing like their short runner shorts, and it's like a black and white photo, and you're like, those are like 16-year-olds. It looks like freaking Henry Cavill. They're like Superman. Like they're all
just jacked.
And then you look at 16-year-olds today, and you're just like, it looks like a 13-year-old. Like, and it's just, and it's one of those things you just kind of look at and you're like, that's interesting. But you get down to the root of it. It could be what we're feeding in our bodies, the lack of exercise.
I mean, I think it absolutely is. I mean, I think that has a lot to do with the lower inlet. And the reason I think that is because I think that's tied directly to the lowering of testosterone, right? That has been happening generation after generation. Testosterone levels are, I mean,
all the soy that's in everything.
Correct. The soy, but then also a lot of alcohol. Right, but then also, right?
I don't know if that's a factor. I don't think
well,
that's it.
In beer specifically, not bourbon. Bourbon's okay.
Bourbon's excluded.
It's fine. I mean, you shouldn't drink a lot because you shouldn't be a drunkard. But you can enjoy yourself, right? But it's not only that, but there has been something to be said about now 30 years into, and we've talked about this too, but 30 years into having hormonal birth control, being in cycle, right? And then pretty much finding that in the water supply that there are definite, remnants of the birth control, right? And if you have young men, older men, right, consuming that, right, over time, right?
You're saying in the water supply?
Yes.
Like the city water, tap water?
Yeah.
Never heard that.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and so you think about that, right? But then even you think about
that's a scary thought though too. Is like I've never thought about it as like remnants, like leftover hormones, like leaving the body from that going back in and we're consuming. But just thinking about the water that we consume in general and what it goes through and how that it just that's a lot. That's a whole nother rabbit hole that I don't want to go down.
Have a Brita filter, folks.
A Brita filter, an inline filter, reverse osmosis that's also built in after the water softener in your home, like anything.
Yeah. I mean, it is.
And this is coming from somebody that used to say, suck it up, drink from the water hose, put some lead in your pencil, like you're going to survive. We're raising you tough. But now, I don't know. I fear for my kids too. Yeah. I still tell them to drink out of the sink. Like, oh, you're already in bed? No, you don't go drink out of the sink. You'll be fine. But then you see all those things, those like TikToks and things where it shows like all those old pipes that they cut in half. And you're like,
I'm probably going to die at 40. But you know what?
It wasn't the lead paint that got us. Something else will.
If it wasn't the lead paint, the asbestos, right? Something will get you. Well, actually, you go back. It was the bubonic plague, right? Now asbestos, the rusted pipes.
Spanish flu.
Something will get you. Right, we are not long for this.
COVID-19, or wait,
or maybe not.
So the Spanish flu. I'm just kidding.
How dare you? How dare you?
How dare you?
Oh man, did you see? Okay, hold on. Did you see? There was like a video of her getting like arrested by German police,
That was all set
but
up.
it was all set up.
Yeah.
I'm like, man,
Hey,
I'm
we
like,
weren't going to talk about current things.
okay, I know, but okay, well, you brought her up, or you didn't bring her up, but you just made fun of her. I was like, dude, we live in a what's a good way to put it? Reality isn't real. It feels like sometimes I feel like I'm in the Matrix.
Yeah, that's
truly, because it's
if
like
reality's not real, then it's not reality.
well, that was put poorly. Great, I don't get me wrong, but it's like nothing is real, right? Nothing is, and so when I saw that again, I always just go to what else that has been shown to us is not real. What's not real? What's fake? Right? I can't help but ask that question.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because you have that. You have well, I mean, one of the biggest examples, right? Which is oh dang it, I totally forgot. It's off the tip of my tongue. But it was the reason why the U.S. got involved with Vietnam. Not Guantanamo Bay. That's where we keep terrorists.
Yeah.
What is it called? What is it called? Dang it, I can't remember. I have to look it up now.
Please stay tuned.
I'm not gonna look it up. That's gonna take too much time.
Anyways, you were talking about the food pyramids between.
Right. So you have
Because I derailed you like hard.
Yeah, it's all right. I mean, I just kind of helped derail it anyway. So it's I'm to blame as well. So, but
Yeah, this train's not going anywhere, but in like a circle. But not
Yeah,
like a fun
but we're
circle,
gonna
like
circle
a
back.
freaky circle.
like a freaky circle. What is that from again?
Thor.
That's right.
Ragnarok.
Yeah, that's right.
Ragnarok was such a good movie.
Yeah, Love and Thunder was
Yeah,
not.
yeah.
Well, apparently it wasn't very good. I didn't watch it. I probably won't ever. So yeah. So it what's interesting is, again, it's not till this food pyramid is unveiled, right, and then is seen as right the right thing to do, that you see the rise and what's interesting about it too, because of that. What's interesting about the focus on grains, and then like pasta, bread, thing like that. So a couple weeks ago, I told you this story. So a couple weeks ago, we went to a Italian restaurant here in the area that we really like. Right, it had been a long while since we've been there. Right, since before Christina had started her keto diet was the last time we went there. And number one, it was a really long wait because it was Friday night. It was a bad idea to go there, right? But that's a whole other thing. I was so mad. Our wait was so long, and I was so hungry. So mad.
You're talking about where I think you're talking about, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we sit
Super
down, and
good,
of course,
yeah.
we're so hungry, right? And what do they put in front of you? They put you in front of you bread that they just replace as much as you want.
They're like free, fresh, hot garlic knots.
Yes. And they're so good.
You got to ask for that oil.
Oh, yeah.
The fresh olive oil with all the crushed capers and Parmesan that's at the bottom.
Yeah. Good stuff. Good stuff. So we had that, and then of course you usually get a pasta, right? And typically Christina, will do like a cheap meal, right, on the weekend when we're out and about doing whatever, right? So this is not, it was pretty typical, right? But this time when she did that, the next couple days, like she was like out for the count. I mean, it was like it really messed her up, and she was like, "I am never eating that again." She's like, "I will never do it." She's like, "I'm not."
It is not worth it.
No, and I was so fascinated by how her body reacted to having that high amount of gluten and pot and all that stuff reintroduced to her body. Her body was like, please stop. Please. Like the bloating and all. I mean, she just felt miserable for like 2 days.
It's not like, she literally jumped off the deep end and went like all in. And her body didn't know what to do. So, I mean, even if this place they like to make their own pasta, so it's fewer ingredients, the whole nine, still, I mean, you got to ask yourself, as humans, are we or are we designed to eat all this? Because then there's the argument about all these Italians. There's a lot of people who go and they spend 2 weeks in Italy and they drop pant sizes just from eating pasta and,
Yeah, pasta, pizzas.
drinking wine and
Yeah.
everything. And they're like, I came over here expecting to gain the vacation weight, and I dropped 2 pant sizes. And all I've eaten was pasta and everything else. So there's a whole argument between the type of grains that we're making over here. Even if you want to have the pesticide argument and everything else, whereas in the old world back over there, I mean, it's the same grains, the ancient grains that they've been growing forever, like BC type grains. And so it's made there, it's fresh. So it's not like it doesn't have this like modern stereotype of, carbs are bad kind of thing. So I don't know.
Yeah. And so that's where, again, it does make you think, right? Again, when you look at, to your point, the food you've made a couple times, right? It's like the food and drinks here versus over in Europe, right? Why is it that they can have, in concept, right?
Yeah.
The same meal, right? But not have the same reactions, right? Like, who is it? I think Allie. Yeah, it was Allie that was doing a video. And she was talking about how saying like she can't have gluten and stuff here in the United States. Like flour here, she just can't do it.
Well, there's something about the flour too. Is like, you go and buy flour. What are you going to buy? What color is it?
White. It's bleached white.
It's bleached flour.
Yeah.
Bleached, and then what is it? Enriched. Bleached, enriched flour.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is something that came about in the 70s because it was easier and it was like you could use it in multiple dishes because it wasn't as earthy. I don't know what the reason is, but you have to enrich it because the bleaching strips all the minerals. So then you're supplementing with that. So you're changing it, but then having to add things back. So more processing.
Right. Exactly. And so that's why for us, like we have no flour in the house. We just do almond flour now.
Right. But I mean, there's still wheat type flours that are going to be more either organic, they're unbleached, and then you look at this and you make bread or pasta out of it and you're like, whoa, it looks weird. Yeah, it looks natural.
Yeah, that's what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, and so if you wanted to go through all that work and effort to make your own dough and then wait for it to, rise or whatever, and then dry it out and then roll it through a pasta maker, yeah, sure, you can make your own pasta and it's going to be good. And Christina may not have those side effects, but then you lose the convenience factor, which as Americans, that's where this whole thing started.
Yeah, McDonald's, man. McDonald's drive-through.
Campbell's, Kraft.
Yeah.
All these giant, they're really just umbrella corporations now because so much is owned by, Kraft as a company owns so much stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, when you look at like the spider web or like diagram of like
pretty much anything that comes in a box at the store, stay away from.
Yeah.
I mean, even boxed rice, I don't know. They say everything in a box, but use your judgment. But anything.
Well, I think what it is, one thing initially I know that helped us a lot is, and you do this one time, you never have to do it again, right? But for the normal products that you get, right, take time to look at other alternatives, right? Again, the first time you go to the grocery store, it's a major pain in the ass. You're going to be there a lot longer than you normally are. But if you do this one time, it's done, right? You know what it is, and so you don't have to worry about it anymore, right? But then because that's what it was. That first time, I remember the first time we went to the grocery store, it was a nightmare, right? Because we're looking for, okay, this is what we normally get, and it has high fructose corn syrup. It has this. It has this. It has this. It's like, okay, what can we not get, or what can we get as an alternative?
Like even syrup for the kids that doesn't contain high fructose corn syrup. And then there's the argument is like, well, is it really that bad?
Log cabin.
Log cabin, really?
Yes, all natural and also very good.
But this still has an ingredient list like this long. Really?
Yeah.
I'd have to double check.
Yeah.
But any brand that doesn't just say 100% maple syrup is going to have something in it, which maple syrup naturally is like a preservative on its own. So it's very shelf stable. Like you really don't, but, and this was the point I was going to make, these healthy, like raw, like less processed, like options that are readily available this day and age because more and more people are becoming gluten intolerant, things like that. We went to California, like every restaurant has options. Here, you kind of got to ask, some people are like, yeah, no, we don't do that.
Yeah, like
it's
Texas.
growing, but why is it growing? And on top of that, it's more expensive. Everything. why should like why should the real maple syrup, which back in the day used to just be all there was, and then these other brands came out with real butter flavor, and they like start adding all
I
this.
know, isn't that weird? I mean,
And then
it's
this
very odd.
through marketing and advertising and everything else. Now that's the home your staple, and the other stuff's more expensive. It's like the other stuff was like maybe harder to get, but took less processing, less energy. You literally tapped the tree and filled it up. But why is it like twice as much? You ever try to get a bottle of like real maple syrup now? It's like $10.
Yeah. Yeah. So, yeah, but ours is a log cabin. Not too expensive, and it's good. It's good. Yeah, and again, it doesn't have, like you said, an ingredient list a mile long with words you don't know. Oh, yeah, the more words that are on the back of the nutrition label, the more you should know this is actually probably very bad
Now,
for me.
I'm not saying all that stuff is bad, because there's a lot of people who help the public and they take the time to educate. I've seen somehow on TikTok, my algorithm's going to change for that, but they go through and they break down what this is. Ooh, the scary label, the scary ingredient on the back of the product. Like all this is blah, blah, blah. And this is what it does. And you're like, oh, I guess it's not that bad. But when the way you read it, it's bad. But then you got to ask yourself, why do you need all that? A lot of it is just preserve flavor or stay shelf stable. But if you're buying whole natural ingredients, you have to worry about that anyways.
Right. And
but it's more work. You have to come home every day, and then you have to prep, and you have to cook. It's not throwing it together.
No, it's not.
Stuff doesn't last as long. So you got to be careful about how you buy.
Oh yeah, like you have to be super mindful. We go to this. I mean, we spend about the same amount, but we end up going to the grocery store about once a week because a lot of the stuff again, it's like you got your meal, but again, Christina and it also just helps her out because of the way she regiments what she's gonna eat. Every week we know exactly what's going to be on the menu, right? And it is a lot of it is the same stuff, but at the end of the day, for her, and we were talking this morning, and she's like, the biggest thing that she's like, I love it. She's like, I just feel like so much better. And again, this is a woman who, my wife is a mother of 3 children, under 5. Right? Yeah.
Just had to check.
Yeah. 3 under 5, and does not drink coffee. Doesn't drink coffee. Doesn't need it.
I mean, I enjoy it, but
yeah, but I'm saying doesn't need it, right? Which was huge because before all this, right? If she didn't have her coffee, she was she couldn't function.
Does she still drink it? She just doesn't.
Not at all. Zero.
Let me ask you, why did she cut the coffee out?
Well,
because if she liked it before, is it just a lifestyle change?
She liked it, but it was more like she needed it as well. Yes, she liked it, but she needed it, right? And she did. Because I know there's a lot of people who would be like,
yeah, first thing you got to do before you can even get going in the morning.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of people who do keto. Like my dad was doing keto for a good while, and coffee for a lot of people who really enjoy coffee, but they have to have their special creamers and all that. On keto, you can't really do all that. It's got to be black. So what my dad was doing when he was on keto a couple years ago is butter.
Yeah.
So you can use butter, and it's
butter
and
natural,
kind of sweetener. The little saltiness kind of cuts out of the bitter if you don't like the black coffee, and you do it like that. But
right.
The point is there's options, but you gotta maybe a learning curve, and you may have to settle. But what's more important, your health or the freaking Cold Stone sweet cream that you get at the grocery store, that when you read it, the first ingredient, because I don't know if y'all know how ingredient lists work, but the first item is going to be the most of whatever is
most utilized. Yeah.
Yeah. So if your first ingredient's water, 90% of that or whatever is going to be the water.
Yeah.
And so when you read Coffee Mate or, International Delight, all the stuff that you reach for, because that's the household name. That's the staple. That's the good stuff.
That's just where we go.
And the first ingredient is vegetable oil or soybean oil. And you're like, just imagine that size container, but if it was clear and you just saw that it was 90% vegetable oil and then the little stuff, if it was packaged like that and you could see it separated, you wouldn't reach for that.
You'd be like, that's gross.
It's not all pretty with, the Cold Stone ice cream scoops on the bowl with sprinkles on it. You're like, I like that.
It's a scoop of ice cream on your coffee,
right? But now I buy the real the real dairy, and you read, because I'm health conscious as of this last year out of necessity for my wife, and you look at that stuff and it starts to really like wake you up, and you're like, holy crap, like the stuff that you're putting in, that whatever, you're 20 years old, you're a teenager, you don't care, sure, but you're creating habits that then will start to snowball, and by the time you're 30, 40, you're starting to have health issues, chronic illnesses. That where do they come from? Is everything truly genetic? Because if you look back, maybe grandma on mom's side maybe had something, but it may not be what you had. Maybe the family tree is pretty clean, but suddenly you just have a new genetic illness that was dormant for 4 generations. Maybe these things are coming out from what we're putting in our bodies.
Right, absolutely. And that's where, again, when you look at this stuff, I mean, again, people don't need medicine. They need a dietary change from what they're and a cleanse from what they're putting in their body, right? I mean, I think people would be amazed the transformation they would see if for a couple months they went, took out all preservatives, all that kind of stuff, right? But what the point I was making though was like for her, she's like, the biggest thing is I feel so much better all the time. Like I have so much more energy, right? And also for every for every pound you lose, it's like 30 pounds of pressure off of your knees, I think, or something like that, right? It's a pretty large amount, right? And so with the amount, she's like I feel like I have like a bounce in my step because I just feel better, right? And I just think about so many people that just are feeling sick and awful all the time. It's like, if you just like you don't need to go to the doctor. You need to change your lifestyle. You need to go work out. You need to eat the right kind of food, right? And that will make you feel better. Right? You will feel better, and you will actually be healthier, right?
We'll even take the people who truly are obese or who have, they can barely get out of bed. Life is daunting. And I think Joe Rogan is one of these ones who is the person I'm thinking that said this, but you don't have to just go out and immediately start running. Just start moving. Get up. Walk around your room a few times. Start small. Like if you're truly like obese and like it's hard for you to do anything without assistance, anything that causes you to strain or struggle or to like breathe heavy, it's exercise. So you can get up. And if standing up on your own is hard work, we'll get to the point where you're just practicing standing every day, and then to the point where you can do it without assistance. That's exercise. Anything that gets your blood pumping and moving is exercise. Nobody's saying you got to like go out there and start trying to run and keep up with everybody, but start somewhere. And yeah, that's going to be the hard part. The easy part that everybody acts like is hard is changing your diet. Like just because you switch from drinking Coke to Diet Coke and you think that that's going to make a great change in your life, that's not it. That's clever marketing. If anything, Diet Coke's been proven to be worse for you than real Coke.
Right,
because your body can process the sugar.
They use, yeah. Oh my God, it's so bad for you.
It's marketing. Cut the soda out in general. Yeah. I mean, if you want to lose weight and you're not necessarily exercising to help burn excess calories, where the difference is going to be is proper nutrition for one, caloric density, nutrient-rich things, but most importantly, you need to be at a caloric deficit. So if you ate nothing but Cheetos all day, but technically you were under how much your body naturally, how many calories you burn naturally in the day, theoretically you should lose weight. I'm not saying you're going to be healthy. I'm not saying your results are going to be super fast because you're still eating empty carbs and it's freaking Cheetos and who knows what that dust is made of.
Yes, it is.
It's crack. It's so good. But
yeah, I know.
But no, like make bigger changes with your diet. Like even back when I used not the political side, not the, red pill kind of type movement side of me now, but even when I was really, really big into working out, everybody's always said like diet is 70% of the battle, 30% is the actual exercise. So it doesn't matter if you're in the gym 7 days a week, 2 hours a day, like I used to be. If your diet was junk, which mine was, you're not going to see those results that you want.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, you can attest to it. I mean, it's hard to switch your diet.
Absolutely. Yeah. But it's once I think part of it is how you look at it, right? Because so much of anything. Do
you want to see your grandkids?
Right, is here, right? Yeah, but it's things like that. Like, and then also it's like for my son is 5, right? And then, a 3-year-old and then a 9-month-old, it's like I want to be as healthy and as mobile as possible, right, with them, right? I want to be able to be, in the next 5, 10, 15 years, be able to do all this stuff with them, right? If it's soccer or baseball or whatever it is they could do. I mean, I'm not, dragging my ass around everywhere trying to just barely keep up with them, right? I can actively participate, right, in those things with them, right? So then they can know that dad isn't just sitting here, right, on his lazy rear end, right? Dad is actually actively participating in what I love and what I want to do, and being even more present in there, and so absolutely it is. I have thought about things like that. Like, for me, I want to be as healthy as possible for grandchildren and potentially great grandchildren, right? If I take care of myself, I can be. I mean, my goodness, my grandmother was here for the first 2 of my kids, being born, right? And she was 90, my goodness, what was she, 96, 97, I think, when she passed away.
Wow.
So the only way to be there, right? And of course she, God bless her, right? She's cooking every meal, all that kind of stuff, right? And again, lo and behold, she made it to 97 before she passed away from cancer. But her ability to stay healthy, all these things allowed her to see her, I mean, I don't know how many cousins I have on that side of my dad's side of the family, but all these cousins, right? And
right, and which is
all
funny because through modern medicine, you think we'd be living longer, healthier lives. I mean, everybody back, in the 1950s thought by the 2000s we'd have flying cars and never be living to be 200 years old.
You think about Back to the Future, where they thought, because actually they go back, in the second one they go to January of 2023, right? And they thought, we'd have. It's funny to see that, right? They thought we'd have flying cars, right? We'd cure every disease. Nope, we're just idiots. We're fat and lazy.
Well, you got to ask yourself is why? Who's to gain? They want us sick. They want us fat. They want us dependent. I mean, during the pandemic, there were shortages on food and produce and meat. That's why the meat market's so high right now, dude. Just a regular ribeye is sitting at $14, $15 a pound. That's crazy.
It's bonkers.
The things that are fresh and that are they're not as shelf stable. They have a short lifespan, so it requires more trucking and all that. Those are the things that suffered, and they're still trying to come down. Freaking eggs as expensive as they are,
Yeah.
What was stable the whole time? What really hasn't jumped in price? What really never was missing on the shelves? Anything that came in a box. You got to ask yourself, those people were.
That's a good point.
We're making money the whole time. The same things that we're over here saying are making us sick. I don't know. Do your own research, but
that's an interesting point. That's a very interesting point. And
pharmaceuticals, they want to sell you. I've always been one for privatized medicine. I'm not really one for social health care, but given that, is there money to be made with a healthy population if it's all, social health care? No. Is it? It's government money, and it doesn't matter at that point. But if it's privatized, they want you to keep being sick and coming in. I don't know.
Yeah, it's a sketchy business, man. It's a sketchy business.
I'm going full tinfoil hat here.
Yeah, I know. But that's a very interesting point you made about what we were missing, and we weren't. What was there at any time we wanted it, and again, I think that added to this, right? I mean, as far as, the situation, because you saw for the first time ever, right, the average age or death rate, whatever it is, right, went down as far as went from 80.
I didn't know that.
84 to
I believe it.
To 83 years old, right? Not only that, but also, the drug abuse and fentanyl deaths and a lot of other stuff in addition to that. But yeah, I mean, in a time where we have all these different medical advances, we are sicker than ever, and it should make you take a step back and think. And, when because I can't help but do this, and God forgive me for this, but when we go to when we go out and about, or we're shopping, or we go to the store, right, grocery store, I people watch. I can't help myself.
Yeah.
Man, you look around, and every time I look around, I'm like, so most of these people are just like, they're just fat. We wouldn't say they are, because it's like indecent, right? And, you shouldn't just
fat phobic.
Yeah, you shouldn't just say, hey, hey, fat. You shouldn't do that.
Not even fatty. Hey,
yeah.
fat.
Yeah. Well, do you remember that clip?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it was like Joe Biden doing like a rally thing before the 2020 presidential race, and like some guy asked him a question. Like, it wasn't even that bad of a question. I don't remember what it was. But he was like, "Hey, listen, fat." It's like,
Joe Biden?
Yeah.
I remember that now. I thought you said, for some reason I was thinking Joe Rogan when you said that. I'm like,
No,
hey, fat.
Yeah. But I look around, I'm like, these people are all just fat, right? And again, I'm no like, I don't look like, I'm not like a shredded, whatever, but, I'm like, I just, the first thing I think is like, they must feel
yeah, but you're
so
like
miserable.
healthier now.
Yeah, but I just think
you
about
look
for them.
better than when I first met you years ago. You actually
Yeah.
have a beard now, so there's something to be said.
That is true.
Maybe
That is
losing
true.
it up top. I don't know, but you got it coming in. It's usually a trade-off.
No, it's coming in thick, man. I hate it too, to a certain extent, because my hair grows fast. Like, I have to get my hair cut way too often.
Is that not a sign of proper health?
Yeah.
Everybody,
Although
especially women.
I'm graying early. Is that a bad thing?
No, I am too. But it's all the stress. It's what we put on ourselves.
Dude, bro, I'm
give to
telling
you.
you. Before I got married, my hair was just black as night.
No, I'm salt and pepper. I've got
get married.
I get silver ones coming in here.
Yeah, I think maybe one or two that have come through. My hair. You see it's just covered.
It's going.
It's
on the sides for me. Fortunately, I'm blonde, so some of the light is like, is that white or is that like?
Yeah, we'll be lucky because I keep it short on the side most of the time.
Yeah, where my sides are, you don't see it.
You don't really
Bald
see it.
fades, everybody. That's the secret.
It's true. It is. It truly is. But yeah, it's all those things, right? Thick hair, like.
But all these new products, everything you keep seeing on TV, whether it's like Keeps, like things like all the stuff for men. What's the one? Hims, which is the testosterone help, I believe, that you can do by mail. Yeah, for ED, but for everything. Is like, why are we having all these problems? We don't need some new subscription service to like help us out. We need to fix the root of the problem, which, look back through history, we didn't used to have all these big problems, and now we do.
Right. No, absolutely. And again, that's why, like, for the average person, I don't know why you can't stop and think, like, why are we having this problem? Again, in the most advanced, civilization of all time, supposedly, right? We can't take care of ourselves. We're dying, of obesity at, the age of 40 or 50.
Heart disease, everything that's just through the roof. Yeah.
And
they want to blame things like, ridiculous. Oh, you can't have bacon with your breakfast because that is what's killing you, the cholesterol and all that. Like, have you looked at all the other junk? I think the bacon, if anything, anything in moderation, bacon's not going to hurt you.
Bacon. I love bacon.
Oh, bacon's so good. They try to like trick you with like what healthy fats are, and all I know is the pig is natural. And maybe if that's all you ate, then sure. But I think that lard is also good for lubrication for your joints. You know, there's a lot of things that your body needs to repair that it's expecting to get that naturally.
Well, yeah. Well, think about that like food pyramid thing that Rogan posted. Like, it was like a couple weeks ago now, where it said like the things you should consume, like the least amount is like
almost
eggs.
like it's upside down.
Yeah, it's like beef and like eggs cooked in butter. It's like those things are natural. But you think people should eat frosted mini wheats? Like, please explain that to me. Mm-hmm. Explain the logic behind that. It makes no sense. It doesn't.
Have you tried carnivore at all? I know we started the show with talking about it. I will go days where it's carnivore only.
It goes. I guess unintentionally, right? But I mean, our diet is basically keto, just because again, Christina cooks what she cooks, and I eat it.
Yeah, I'm talking.
So like,
I've done full days where it's like eggs, cheese, meat, like nothing else.
those are the best days, aren't they?
So it's yes and no. Like it's savory, but you almost feel like you're missing something because you don't just get stuffed on that. But what I realize is you feel really full afterwards because you eat your fill. But like an hour later, you're not miserable. I think the excess in carbs, where you have your starchy sides, and then you have your like your rice, but then you have maybe like sauteed potatoes or some green beans in there, and then you have your meat side. But your meat side's pretty much smaller, and you try to fill yourself up by adding more of the rice and the other things.
Yeah.
It should be the opposite. Do a little bit of rice, do a little bit of potatoes, your green beans, but then have a bigger piece of meat. I think that's what your body is really wanting, because in my experience of doing the carnivore, I just do it here and there. You feel kind of stuffed and full, but then 45 minutes later, you're not hungry. You don't crave really anything, but you're not miserable at the same time, because if you ate the full meal and everything, like your typical, I mean, there's times I'm like 2 hours after dinner, I'm like, oh, like I ate too much.
Yeah, you're like, oh, I feel like garbage. Yeah. But also what's funny about that too is like, typically I also do intermittent fasting. So like I typically don't
Same.
eat, don't
so like
eat breakfast.
noon, 11:30.
Yeah. So typically I don't do that. On the weekends we'll do breakfast, just cause it's like a special thing. Christina will do, pancakes on Saturday mornings, like the kids or whatever. And we're as health conscious as we can, and we make pancakes as healthy as possible. At the end of the day, they're pancakes, so it's like whatever, right?
There's a lot of good pancake options.
Yeah,
that don't have.
Yeah, and there are like we use it's like Pioneer is the brand,
or even the Kodiak stuff where it's supposed to be.
Yeah, it's like it's as good as you can get. Again, it's not perfect, right? But it's as healthy as it's gonna get per se.
My wife Brittany was doing about a year ago. She tried the banana pancake recipe, where you like mash up bananas, and I think you either add like an egg to
I think
it or
an
something.
egg. Yeah.
The texture and consistency actually is not that far off. Excuse me, but the flavor is.
Yeah.
It tastes kind of like a crispy, sweet, like kind of banana, almost like a banana muffin, kind of, so to speak.
Yeah.
But if that's a trade-off, then, I mean, I think it's worth.
Yeah, absolutely, right. And I think that's the biggest thing you have to come to like understanding for yourself, right? It's not just like about it being a diet; it has to be a lifestyle change for a purpose. Like why I'm doing this because of kids or whatever, right? And your marriage, right? You should be healthy for your spouse, right? But yeah, what's funny though again is when you go more nutrition nutrient dense, again you don't have to eat as much, but you feel full. Like for me, like every once in a while, I'll have a morning where I'm actually kind of hungry. So I will, like, if my stomach's growling.
It's called a tummy.
I almost said tummy.
You're a dad.
Yeah, I am.
You have kids.
Yeah. If my stomach actually starts grumbling, right, I'm like, okay, my body's telling me I need to eat. So like, I'll do like two eggs. Like
I've actually heard though that your stomach is supposed to growl.
Really?
Yeah. We're supposed to be hungry more often throughout the day.
That's interesting.
I mean, it's just another food for thought, no pun intended. But
no, granted, I'm not saying like you should just eat every time your stomach grumbles, but that's very interesting. You should
that's
just,
your body's alone. When your body goes through that, it's almost like going into ketosis, where your body starts using its reserves. You're leaning out. Your body's like everything that's trying to store up, then like in the excess, your body starts to use. And then when you do eat, you can eat a lot more and your body's going to use it rather than just try to store it. The problem is, as Americans especially, everything is so convenient these days. We're not working hard. We're not hunter-gatherers anymore.
Right, so the carbs we take in, it stores, and then it's like, oh no, I've gained like 20 pounds.
These like fad diets, they work so well because they're extreme. To be healthy, you don't have to, cut out all carbs. But if you want to, affect your weight a little bit more, then yeah, you got to switch your body up and trick it because it's been storing stuff because we're not getting the exercise we need. We are medicated and everything else to the point where it's just there. And then, fortunately, I'm not on any medications, but, I have family and stuff that is. But with these medications come side effects. And those side effects, you need something else
over
to
long
counteract
periods
that
of time. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's where it's like I saw an article in the not the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, talking about how pediatricians were starting to suggest prescribing weight loss meds to kids, right, that are obese. And I'm like, number one, right, like if a kid is obese, you should look at the parents because there's a 99.9999% chance they're also obese, and that's just a household of no self-discipline and complete just lack of
that's
any
like
sort.
CPS for me right there. Like that's almost like child endangerment. I mean, I've said it that's extreme, whatever, but
I mean, I don't think. I mean, that kid's gonna be dead by like 30.
if he's not dead, he's like that for life.
Yeah,
Try to break that habit because
he's like Brendan Fraser's The Whale.
yeah,
Like, just I mean,
I've never seen the movie.
I
I've heard
haven't
it's
either.
good.
I just saw he was like a big fat
big
guy.
guy.
So
You assumed, but I mean, it's like an addiction.
yes,
You're setting
you
that
could
child
be
up,
addicted to food,
and it's an
100%.
addiction. If you can get off of it, like I was saying with banana pancakes, it may not be what you're really, really craving, but after you get past that, if you've started doing that a few times, you're going to enjoy it. You're not even going to miss the other stuff. Your your body wants to be healthier more than you want to. It's this dopamine drip that you get from like the sweets and the sugar. That what do you think when you go to Denny's, the one with the whipped cream and the chocolate chips and stuff on top, that's the one that your mind's like, ooh, yes. Because naturally sugar was harder to get and your body needed the sugar. So it was harder to find it out in nature. You had to like more risk and reward. And now it's all like mass produced and super easy to get.
Yeah,
and it's in
you
everything.
can find sugar anywhere.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's why it tastes good. I mean, your body was like, hey, you need this. It's harder to get. So if you see like a strawberry or whatever and it's sweet, your body, it sends a signal. And so that signal is treated almost like the same that you would get from, getting high or, pornography, gambling, any type of like,
Yes, yeah.
So it's hard to cut it. So to me, getting kids on this habit where it's too convenient and Pop-Tarts and everything, again, we've already had the talk earlier where I want to give my kids some of that. I'm not going to shelter them. My kids like Pop-Tarts every now and then, once a week, whatever, maybe they have a Pop-Tart, they split a pack for breakfast and then they have some strawberries or something else with it.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not all they eat. But man, I mean, to me, I said it earlier. I think it's like child endangerment. Like it's going to be harder by the time that they get into their teens and maybe they want to start trying to get healthy to break that habit. If they're not already obese, if that already hasn't given them
Right.
long-term health effects and everything else.
Right, and I think, and to your point, right, and that's why I was bringing up, like, the idea these pediatricians are doing that instead of telling the parent, hey, look, fat, right, you need to take care of your kid. You need to take care of your kid. Like, you need to do the right things.
If your
put
kid
the right
doesn't
kind
go
of food.
outside, he's going to die. That's what a pediatrician should say.
Yeah. Instead, they're giving him this, these weight loss, drugs. And again, like, how do we know? I mean, again, if this kid's idea is, okay, if I just gain weight, I need to just take a pill and I'll lose weight. It's like, how is that going to affect them long term? Right? No one ever. The thing that bothers me, and this is with anything in life, not just this. No one ever thinks about the long term consequences of the decisions.
Everybody's
that
so
they're making.
short-sighted. Yeah.
Yeah, everyone's so like right now, and again, part of that's culturally right. We have the
part of it. It's a huge part. Everything's convenience.
Yeah, we have
now.
a cell phone, right? You get things. Your food Uber to you. You can do anything, right? I mean, for the average American, there's not really a lot of things they couldn't get within a 24-hour period, right? If they're honest with themselves, they would agree with that, right? But because that we don't, yeah, right. But because that we don't think about anything, we don't think about what it will do for our future at all, and it's killing, and that's in everything, right? And it's killing us, right? Financially, right? The average person is just out of their mind.
Killing us softly, yeah.
Yeah.
We don't even realize it's happening.
Yeah, and so, it is that's the thing that just I think bothers me the most about it. It's like you are so short-sighted, right? You have no idea what this is going to do to you in a few months or a year or 10 years or however long, from this, right? No one ever takes a step back and take that personal responsibility and think, what is this going to mean for me going forward, right? They're just like, this tastes good right now. And it's like, okay, like you're like, sure, yes, like the 3 stack of waffles or pancakes with whipped cream, chocolate chips, and syrup or whatever at Denny's in the moment is going to taste phenomenal.
Yeah, but it's kind of like the whole, like getting high, like I was saying before. You like it right there in the moment, and then it's over. And then what did you get out of it? Maybe you feel like crap later, you know. Why did I eat that? But it was so good in the moment.
And now
you got to tell yourself
now you're
that that's your brain. It's a signal. You got to be stronger.
Yeah, your body's
than yourself.
telling you like, please, like don't do that again. I can't do that.
It comes down to self-control. I mean, you got to have strong willpower. I mean, if we go somewhere like a birthday party, I typically say no to cake. And if they really insist, you know, maybe I split some with the wife, who now can eat 90% of that. So I try to just say no.
Yeah,
But
I say no. If I'm asked a second time, I say
yes,
sure.
But don't eat all of it. Take a few bites. You get that sweetness on the tongue. You get that reward. You don't need to eat the whole thing.
You know what's funny?
It's not about being polite.
When you cut out sugars, it's really interesting how like stuff like that, it like the sweetness is like an overload to your body. Your body's like, whoa, like way too much.
Yeah.
Right? And that's partially why I tell like, please, I say no to cake because it's like, after 2 bites, my body's like, please.
Your stomach starts like,
yeah, it's like, please stop, don't no more, please. And I'm like, I know.
That's
But
the problem with
I have
once
to
you
be
start eating
polite.
clean too, and you got to be almost like in a safe space if you're gonna like go on a bender or like cheat. You know, it's like someone who's lactose intolerant and they weren't told there was dairy and something. You're like, you better.
You better have a toilet nearby, bud.
But yeah, like there's times
I had a friend who was lactose intolerant, and then they wanted Bluebell so bad. They're like, I don't even care. So they got it a little pint, ate it, but they were on the toilet for like 2 hours afterwards.
Was it worth it?
They said yes.
It's
They haven't done it again since, as far as I'm
like
aware.
my wife. She's cheated on like beer like once or twice because beer was probably one of the hardest things for her to kick. You know, we are beer drinkers. I mean, some of us still are.
Well, what's a big
but,
Texas?
some of us.
But here's the thing. What's a big thing in Texas? Breweries and going to breweries.
Yeah.
That's a lot of fun. We haven't done that in like months now because we don't do beer anymore.
Right. Beer makes you bloated and all
Yeah.
that. So she cut that, and it was one of those things that was really hard. So we tried gluten-free beer. Not the same.
Yeah. It's all
and
about
it's
seltzers.
like twice as expensive too. So
Yeah.
she was switching, but every now and then she was like, that beer just sounds really, really good. Because I may come home and I try not to keep beer in the house really. So every now and then I'll just grab a 6-pack of something. But I even cut it out, and I was feeling better because I wasn't as bloated too. But every now and then she just wanted one, and she would have a beer, and then she'd be miserable.
Yeah.
The headaches, the brain fog would come back. You know, it's hard the next day for her with the kids, all from like a beer.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
so was it worth the reward? Kind of like your friend with the ice cream? No. I mean,
No.
although she does have these, she did have a beer yesterday,
Oh.
and I haven't heard any bad, ill things. So for
Scandalous.
her, I know this may help her gut, so with no side effects, but long term, I don't think it'd really help her with her condition, whatever, her thyroid stuff. But
Yeah.
we got her these like gluten ease pills. It aids in the digestion of gluten if your body can't process it naturally. Kind of like the Lactaid for like lactose intolerant people.
Yeah.
It just is enzymes to help break it down so your body can process it so you don't
Yeah.
get the bubble gut. So she had one.
Bubble
She took it, and then I gave her a beer yesterday, and she drank a beer, just one. She didn't want to overdo it. I never heard any complaints. She would have told me. She tells me.
Well,
If she can.
that's kind of.
She's a woman.
That's what it is to be
that's
married.
fair.
So,
But yeah, so I mean,
so that being said, right? All in all, right? You know, just be mindful, right? And do these things not to follow a fad, right? But to make yourself feel better, right? And to be better for those around you, right? And
unless you have to, like me, and I know your wife pretty much was like, I'm making this lifestyle change. Are you with me or not? Well, I didn't really have a choice. My wife was.
yeah, my wife cooks. So I'm like,
Yeah, so
Let's
for
go-
me, it
go
was
for
it was
it.
overnight. It was like game changer. Y'all don't have to do that. Start making conscious decisions, like you were talking about.
take yeah, it's one step after another. Yeah, you don't
Every now
have
and then,
to-
just glance at a label and be like, "Holy crap!" Well, the one next to it, and it's like, "Oh, only 2 ingredients. Maybe I should just do that
Yeah.
instead."
And here's another thing, right? When people, it sometimes is the more healthy option a little bit more expensive?
Yes.
Yes, it probably is.
But your health.
But before you in your mind complain about it, if you're someone that goes to Starbucks more than once a week, or you go out to eat more than once a week, take a step back and punch yourself in the face because you're a liar. Don't tell me it's too expensive. You make bad decisions. Stop drinking Starbucks and stop going out to eat all the time.
I need my Starbies, bro.
You're a terrible person.
I don't get it, Starbucks.
I don't either.
We actually started.
But again, because I know people's a lot of times like, oh my god, it's so expensive. It's like, dude, you buy a $5 cup of coffee, $10 cup of coffee,
yeah, it's true.
okay, and go out to eat and spend $60.
Yeah,
on
getting
yourself.
out to eat is gotten very expensive.
Like, don't kid yourself, okay?
Yeah, I got to kick the Red Bulls. I still like my one a day or whatever. My afternoon pick.
Your heart's gonna blow out of your chest.
Hasn't yet.
So, but yeah, just take care of yourself. You'll feel better, right? And it'll affect other areas of your life. One good discipline ripples through the rest of your life, and you'll create other disciplines, right? And have changes in the rest of part of your life, right? So start with this one. It's the easiest one. It's an easy one to start with, actually. Out of all the ones,
out of all the vices, food should be kind of like.
Well, out of all the things where you can have discipline in your life, if you start with food, right, and gain good discipline. Again, one discipline just adds to another, and you find improvement in your life in other areas.
Yeah.
Okay. So, that's our show for this week. Again, with all the crazy stuff going on, there's plenty of stuff we could talk about, but I want to talk about health, right? Because it's something that you can do right now to affect your life positively, right? When it comes to stuff going on in DC or whatever it is, right? There's nothing you can do right now to make that better. Right? But there is something you can do right now for your health that can do positive things for your life. And that's what matters most. Right? So take care of yourself. Again, like, subscribe,